What's up guys, Polk here, and today I'm excited to announce the launch of Upswing Poker's new No Limit Hold'em cash game course by Alex Miller, otherwise known online as Kanu7. If you're not familiar with Alex, he's won millions of dollars playing in high stakes games online. And today I wanted to give you a taste of what the course is all about with a free video from the course. If you guys want to learn from Alex, you can pick up some good tips to improve your game. The course contains 36 hours of Alex teaching you how to play at a high level using his own personal solver. And Alex is a great teacher. In fact, I think this is the best course Upswing Poker has put out yet. And I made a course. The course costs $9.99 and $7.99 if you are a cash game alumni, and you also get access to a private group where you can ask questions amongst the community as well as Alex himself. You also get an instant access to 286 solver generated preflop ranges that would cost hundreds of dollars to buy. And finally, if you purchase this week before Friday at midnight, you'll get the Play Like LLinus course breaking down the strategies used by one of the world's best players, if not the world's best player. Even if you're not interested in purchasing it, this video from the course is Alex breaking down some poker strategy for you so you can improve your game and learn some things, and maybe you'll want to learn more from Alex in the future. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the clip from the cash game course.
A6, I decide to fold after someone else has flatted. Let's have a quick look. Oh, it's actually a fold in the ranges even if no one else has flatted, so definitely could be a fold if someone else has flatted. Ace-10 suited here, going to be able to continue this versus an under-the-gun opener and go for the 3-bet. So if I bring pre-flop ranges briefly again, it's a spot where we're on the cutoff, face an undergun open, so ace-10 suited is almost always 3-betting. And actually, because we're facing a 3x rather than a 2.25x open, we're going to be 3-betting more often and calling less often. So we could even consider doing the same thing as we would be from the hijack and just not having a flatting range here versus the bigger open. And again, that's just because I've said it a few times, I know, but when you're facing a bigger size, you have worse odds for calling, but your EV of 3-betting doesn't change a whole lot. So yeah, we would be 3-betting a little bit wider, perhaps overall, than versus a smaller size, but then folding more. So overall, we're playing less hands, but yeah, folding a bunch more hands and then maybe 3-betting slightly more hands. And I think given that we're 3-betting this nearly all the time anyway, this is a good 3-bet. Opening ace-jack suited on the cutoff. And again, this is a spot where, cutoff versus button, we're not going to be c-betting very often as standard, sort of mid to lowish connected board, so really not going to be c-betting very often. And we go for the check with the ace-jack suited. Could perhaps just always check here, but maybe sort of a low c-bet frequencies is fine. In terms of overall, I mean, and then ace-jack can maybe c-bet a little bit more than average with our backdoor flush draw, but not necessarily, maybe around about whatever our average c-bet frequency is. So here we're going to have a small check raise range, and I think I've got like maybe the 90, maybe the 80, but yeah, when we're not c-betting very often, or particularly if we're always checking, and then our opponent's betting the small size, which I think they can do with a fairly wide range, then we're going to want to be check raising quite a bit, but we also don't do particularly well right at the top of the ranges. Like our opponent's probably going to have more sets than us and so on. So I think, yeah, our sizing doesn't want to be particularly big with a check raise. It's not like we've got pocket kings here or something and we're just like, boom, let's bang in some huge check raises and get loads of value, because, like I say, when we're making it too big, too much of our opponent's continue range is going to be very strong hands. So yeah, I think a small check raise range is going to be good. Just kind of fold out a bunch of the junk that our opponent might be betting, and getting a bit more value with our overpair type hands, which go into our check raise range. So against the sort of weakish betting range that our opponent's got, because they're betting kind of a small size and betting pretty often. So opening queen 6 suited on the button, and then our opponent with the ace jack is going to continue. So on this turn, this is like a pretty bad turn for our hand, and we're going to have, it's basically like total trash. Like, this is some of our worst trash now, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So we're just going to be always checking 100% of the time with this ace jack. We're going to have a bunch of hands that are like much better to bluff with, and we're out of position. So often when we're out of position in spots like this, we want to be checking our worst trash and then betting with our slightly better hands that we still have to check fold to a bet. So yeah, ace jack, which is putting in our check fold range. Also going to be checking obviously a bunch of more reasonable hands, so we're not just always check folding whenever we check, but ace jack will be check folding. And then on the river here, I think now this is definitely a good spot to think about bluffing, and we're thinking about sizing, what size we want to bluff. So what sort of hands are we check raising and then checking that are strong? And we can obviously have our very strong hands that have slow played on the turn. So check raise if we got 8-6 suited or something, which I think is in our opening range. So 8-6 suited. We can have things like queen jack as well, which would normally be barreling the turn, but would occasionally check. And then so yeah, 8-6 as well, occasionally playing this way. Jack 8 as well, another hand that's probably barreling the turn, but could also play like this sometimes. And then we've got hands like pocket tens. It's definitely like quite a solid hand that could be played like this. Check raising sort of a low over pair, which is something that we do pretty often in various spots, and then checking the turn, and then going for an overbet on the river. Also sort of a flop set, we could do this with pocket kings as well. So sort of going for the check raise on the flop, sometimes pocket kings, and then checking top set with sort of somewhat bad blockers to bet and so on. So I'm thinking kind of a big bet is quite good here. We can still be bluffing a small size as well, because we're going to have some hands like ace king or whatever that want to bet a smaller size. But I think, I don't remember which number I've got, is one of the higher ones anyway. And I end up going for the 1.5 times pot bet. And the reason I don't go for even bigger is I think our very, very strong hands, which want to perhaps, really go for a big bet, we've got few enough of them, like the straights I'm talking about here, that we are probably going to put them into other strategies. Like we don't have enough of them that we have some left over to make a really big sizing. I think we're going to want to be checking them sometimes. We also going to want to be betting them with the smaller size that we're going for to sort of balance our like thinner value bets. So yeah, I'm not going with an absolutely huge size, but yeah, go for an overbet bluff. I think we're certainly wrapping quite a lot of hands. We need to have a bunch of bluffs there, and that's as good a bluff as any. So so going with the overbet bluff there. Unfortunately, they fold. With the ace-4 here, I've just limped in the small blind, and then it's checked down so far. On the river, I go for the value bet. Our opponent remembers, just check back the big blind after we've limped small blinds. They're going to have all sorts of total trash. I think ace high is clearly good enough to for a value bet. I probably actually value bet a little bit bigger, would have been better. Yeah, and then checking sometimes maybe it'd be fine. Have our opponent try and bluff some total trash. But I do think our opponent's kind of short stacked. Perhaps they're a weaker player, and maybe they've bet a lot of their, with this 6-5 on the turn. If they have, say, 4 deuce or 3 deuce, 4-3, 7-4, etc., 7-3, a lot of their worst trash could well be betting the turn because they've got a draw to go with it. So they may be less inclined to be bluffing this river, but just because anything sort of, well, not quite anything, but a lot of the hands that are kind of 8 high or below have some sort of draw with them that they, maybe have already bet. And then if they've got, say, 10 high or queen high or something, maybe they just try and check it down and see if they win. So yeah, maybe less inclined to see a ton of bets when we check. So I do prefer betting like I did, but maybe you could go for a slightly bigger size. And just to bring in the range, our opponent did have king high and called us, which is a nice easy call for them. So yeah, again, I'm playing as if someone might be a weaker player, even though they might not be a weaker player at all. I've not seen anything bad from them that I remember. Could just be a short stacking reg and pretty good. So but yeah, even if they are, then it's still going to be the way I played it's fine. So king 9 suited versus the 3-bet here is going to be a fine flat. I think actually it's a hand that we should be 4-betting sometimes. So if we face a 3-bet from the small blind, king 9 suited is 4-betting some of the time and flatting the rest of the time. And something worth noting here is that you want to be careful. Dog barking in the background, sorry if you can hear that. You want to be careful with not just having too strong 4-bet ranges, like especially if you're not playing with ranges in front of you, because it's very easy to kind of forget that the exact hands that should be 4-bet bluffing. So it might be preferable for you, if you're not using stuff in game to be thinking of like a specific set of hands that you're 4-betting in all sorts of different scenarios, and maybe you can change that up every couple of months or whatever, just so that people don't start to really get a proper read on exactly what hands are in your 4-betting ranges. But yeah, maybe it's going to be easier to do something like that than try and remember in all these different spots, like, oh, I've got King 9 suited to 4-bet some of the time here, and also King 8 suited, and so on. A lot of the time you might just end up flatting them without thinking, and then when you actually do have a strong hand, obviously you do then 4-bet, so your 4-bet ranges end up just not having enough bluffs in them. So that might be something to consider. But if you don't have anything in game to tell you how to play. So yeah, but anyway, I've flatted here with King 9, probably making the mistake I'm warning you about, and then we'll see how our opponent plays this. We flopped a backdoor flush draw, but still obviously not a particularly strong hand in this scenario. Opponent thinks for a long time and checks. This is going to be a spot we're not going to be betting particularly often overall, and I'm not sure which number I used, but pretty much could be checking this sort of hand pretty much all the time anyway. So when we've got an ace high flop here, our opponent is, it's kind of a spot where they're advantage, and when they check, we're going to be betting not a polarized range as such, but we're not going to be betting particularly thin on the flop. And so not betting particularly thin, not betting particularly often. And then we're going to have some kind of probably bluffing with some lower card hands than the King 9 in general. The backdoor flush draw does mean that we can consider betting the flop, but anyway, I can't remember if I was betting it sometimes or always checking. But either way, we've checked it this time. Here we've got pocket 5s under the gun and facing a 3-bet. On this turn, it's just an easy fold with King 9. Nothing to be done there against that sort of sizing with just King high. So pocket 5s we flatted versus a 3-bet from the cutoff when we are under the gun, and we're definitely not donking this board, and this is actually a spot where we need to be overfolding quite like a huge amount. But for the most part, their range is just doing absolutely amazingly versus ours, and I've got a similar board up here. This is button versus under the gun, so button's 3-bet under the gun, but still it's going to be almost the same. And this is versus a third pot bet, which is similar to what we've got here on this King King Queen. No flush draw on this board, but doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. And you can see that all these sort of low pairs, we're just pretty much folding them. So yeah, and we're folding 58% of the time versus a third pot bet. So really just a board our opponents hit very well. They should be c-betting like 100% of the time for a smallish size, and we should be just overfolding a lot. So yeah, just one of these spots where we have to hold our hands up and say, you're stronger in this spot, we're going to fold a lot. So yeah, that's what we do. And then we've got pocket kings here, obviously raising on the button. And Pappy, I believe, 3-bets us. Yep, so Pappy 3-bets. And we're obviously 4-betting. Our size is 0.7 times pot. So just using my hotkeys to get the 0.7 times pot, and 4-bet there. So here we've got under the gun versus button. This is a board where when we were cut off as button, we would be checking 100% of the time because our opponent's got a lot of ace 10 in their range. So you might remember from the previous video, we had a quick look, and ace 10x was generally a board that we weren't c-betting on. Now that we're now that we're under the gun, our opponent's flatting a tighter range, and it doesn't, like if I bring in the ranges again, you can see our opponent isn't really flatting ace 10. They've got a little bit of ace 10 suited, but no real ace 10 off. Whereas versus cutoff, they were flatting some ace 10 off and more ace 10 suited. So yeah, basically we're doing a little bit better on this little board now, and we can c-bet at least some of the time, but still going to be c-betting relatively small-ish percentage of the time. This particular hand is a fine c-bet. We've got top pair and a backdoor flush draw, but bear in mind that we're checking weak ace x quite a lot in general in spots like this, and a lot of our ace x, because we're not raising sort of weak ace x offsuit, a lot of our ace x does have a backdoor flush draw, so we're still going to be checking this hand quite a lot, probably checking it most of the time and just betting sometimes, but yeah, I guess I've got one of the higher numbers here, and I do go for the c-bet, and our opponent folds.
Thanks for joining me today, and if you want to learn more about the course, I'll put a link in the description below. Peace, guys.